at 4:15, and my name is Leslie Harris. I am the Vice President, School Board Director number 6, and I hereby call this meeting to order. Ms. Scheck, the roll call, please.
Director Geary,
Present.
Director Burke,
Here.
Director DeWolf,
Present.
Director Mack, Director Patu,
Here.
Director Pinkham,
Present.
Director Harris.
Here. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to Superintendent Nyland for tonight's recognitions.
All right, thank you. Well, we're pleased tonight to recognize the Seattle Housing Authority. We have about a dozen, what I've been calling premier partners that not only are very generous in partnering with us financially, but also come to the table and work side by side with us so that, I guess in my current speeches, I'm talking about not only alignment of our arrows, but coherence of our arrows, where our arrows actually touch each other. And Seattle Housing Authority has been a great partner and friend, working side by side with us for the benefit of our 6,000 students that go to Seattle Public Schools and live in Seattle Housing Authority housing. And they've been side by side with us and maybe even leading the way a step or two ahead of where we are in terms of attendance. And they know where the students live, so they've got a little of a head start on us. So I'd like to introduce Brent Jones, who's going to say a little bit more about our partners, and then we'll hear just briefly from Seattle Housing Authority, and then we'll do a picture with them.
Brent Jones, Chief of Strategy and Partnerships, Dr. Nyland, board members. Actually, I'd like to have Kathleen Panananen come up and talk about our partners today.
Good evening. I'm Kathleen Ponanen, Housing and Education Manager here at Seattle Public Schools, and it's my pleasure to recognize the Seattle Housing Authority this evening. They're our largest affordable housing provider in the city, providing subsidized housing and rental assistance to nearly 35,000 people in Seattle, and they house, like Dr. Nyland said, 1 in 10 Seattle Public School students, so that's 5,500 scholars that are attending every single one of our Seattle Public Schools. And through this partnership, we believe we had this tremendous opportunity to model what a cohesive education system looks like, where students and families feel supported at school, at home, and in their community. And together we have this shared vision for how that students and families experience a community that's working together to promote their educational success, to partnering with families as leaders and honoring them as their first teachers of their children, and also providing and being responsive to the strengths and needs that families communicate to us. So I'd like to commend Seattle Housing Authority for going above and beyond just the bricks and mortars of providing affordable housing and really thinking holistically with us about the whole child and the whole family's experience. So over the next 2 years, like Dr. Nyland mentioned, we're focusing on helping our students be in school, in class, and engaged. And school attendance is just the first step to building meaningful relationships between students and families and our educators so that we can then provide the rigorous academic opportunities and the social and emotional support that we aim to provide each and every one of our students. They've done an incredible job over the summer working with us to communicate to families about the bell time changes and explaining the importance of attendance. The Seattle Housing Authority adds to the number of caring adults in our children's lives. Just recently, they hosted a 20-day attendance challenge at New Holly Community that motivated several students to improve their attendance. One student went from over 30 period absence in just 1 month to, during the challenge the next month, under 10 period absences. So their students and families were recognized and appreciated by their peers, in front of their peers and family, just last Friday night. They're also working with us to build welcoming school environments. They were at West Seattle Elementary and Bailey Gatzert on the first day of school, high-fiving students, and they've been great about inviting educators and our school building leaders to communities to build those welcoming environments and foster school family relationships. So we're joined tonight by Andrea Lazaga, who's the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Seattle Housing Authority, and Roy Chan, who's the Strategic Advisor for Education. And I want to express how thankful we are for Andrew Lofton, Executive Director of Seattle Housing Authority, his personal passion and his leadership in this work, and we really look forward to continuing our partnership. And I'd like to invite Roy Chan to come up and say a couple words.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks again so much for this award. We're really pleased to accept this award in part because we've long realized this has been a partnership more in name, a real true partnership. You know, I think back on some of the things that we've really partnered together on. I think one, we share sort of a common vision for our students and want sort of the same outcomes for our families. You know, I think two, we have invited SPS staff, educators out in their communities, and they have been so gracious to come and meet our families and our students where they are. And then we've also accepted invitations from the school district to come to schools and talk to educators and give them information so that they can better educate the children at their school. And then the other thing I'll just mention, which really highlights like the true partnership between the Seattle Housing Authority and Seattle Public Schools, is that we even share a board member, Zach, who is at SHA and also at SPS. So, you know, like Kathleen said, this work is just beginning. And when we talk about this sort of cohesive, supportive ecosystem, we want our families and students to see SHA and SPS as really aligned. So, you know, we're thinking about doing more home visits together, for instance. We're thinking about doing mentorships together, and what are the out-of-school supports that we can really build in so that when a family thinks about education for their child, they think of both Seattle Public Schools and Seattle Housing Authority working together. And then I think our next big step is how do we bring families more into that process, and how do we bring other partners, other community resources who have a lot of expertise and capacity so that we're all able to give our students what they all truly deserve. So again, thank you very much for this honor, and we look forward to continue to work with you all.
Okay. I'll invite board members down to take a picture with our friends from the Seattle Housing Authority.
We're working on figuring out the financing for that in terms of the cover.
Yeah, no students. No, we do not have student representatives tonight, although I think that the public testimony is led off by a Cleveland student.
Superintendent, you still have the floor for your comments, sir.
All right, thank you. First of all, congratulations to Directors Patu, Mack, and DeWolf, who took their oath of office last week. It was a wonderful gathering. Everybody had family there and a lot of fun and festivity. Former Mayor Tim Burgess was there, and Chris Reichdahl, Superintendent of Public Instruction, was there to give an impromptu 10-minute passionate presentation that was pretty spot on for the issues that we face coming up statewide. Thank you to Vice President Harris for emceeing, and thank you to all of the directors for participating. Well, last time we had a board meeting, we had a lot going on, and I didn't have the opportunity to make orally the superintendent comments. Tonight, I want to give some highlights from our strategic plan, the SMART goals, and the state of the district that we did just prior to our last board meeting. Have some good news, topics of interest, topics of board interest, and then some community highlights. So as I always do, I will present a little bit on each of the three parts of our strategic plan. However, tonight it's really a recap of some of the good news that we shared in the state of the district and some of the successes. So goal 1, educational excellence and equity. Over the past 4 years, we have seen a lot of significant progress. We now lead the state by 10 points in 3rd grade reading, 15 points in 8th grade math, and that's pretty representative of our 3rd through 8th grade scores. Our graduation rates are on the rise over that 4 years, and graduation rates for African American students is up 12% over that time frame, and that does represent a trend for I think almost all of our ethnic groups. These factoids will begin going out from our communications office weekly with a "Did you know?" caption on them, one at a time. Next one up is 71% of our graduates enroll in college immediately after graduation. I did not know that. That's significant in that so many of our jobs do require, family wage jobs do require some college. Our partnership with SEA and PASS is focused on positive relationships, and we've seen reduced suspension rates by 40% over the past few years. And I think that the suspension rate for African American males went down 29% this last year. We also had 23 of our schools recognized last year for achievement awards for sustained improved academic progress. And this just in, as I was going through yesterday, I didn't see it in time to talk. I did meet, as I always do, with the principals during their professional development day, but I didn't see this in time, so my email started popping up with, "Have you seen the article from the New York Times?" And so finally last night late, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll look at the New York Times article. What does it have to say? Well, somewhere buried in there, halfway down, was Seattle was number 3 on the list, actually tied for number 3 on the list with maybe 3 or 4 other schools, as having the highest growth rate in the nation. So the table that they printed was the 200, I think, largest school districts in the nation. Chicago was number 1 in terms of the amount of growth from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Some other district, I forget who they were, and then Seattle was listed as number 3 on the list, and then there was 2 or 3 others side by side with us on that list. So we'll continue to unpack that and find out what that means, but it's a recognition of the good work that our teachers and our educators and our partners have been doing, and a tribute to the board's focus on our key academic goals over that time frame. Goal 2 is improved systems, and number 1 on the list is special education. When I came, as we know, we were on the list for improvements, and we've gone from a score of 4 to a score of 1. We now have many other districts coming to us to say, what can we learn from you about how to build the good systems that you have in place? And as I mentioned earlier, our special education work was featured recently at a national conference that was held here in Seattle specifically for that purpose, to learn from the work that Seattle and Tacoma have been doing in this area. As we know from HR, our substitute fill rate continues to improve. We continue to work on hiring more teachers and administrators of color. We're about double what the statewide rates are, and we know that it matters. that if students have the opportunity to have a teacher who is of the same race culture as they are, makes a big difference in their learning. It's an area we continue to work on. And of course, as we know, we opened a lot of new schools and 2,900 new seats this year to kind of not only keep up, but begin to catch up on our capacity issues. Third goal is family and community engagement, and we continue to work on that. We had a 14% increase in the parent approval rates for our engagement process. We had a 57% increase in our social media referrals to the district webpage. And we continue to deepen our partnerships with the Seattle Council, PTSA, City of Seattle, our premier partners, our community-based organizations, and internally with SEA and PASS. And thanks to those efforts, last year's legislative session was huge in that we were facing a $70-some million budget shortfall, and then we were able to close at least part of that gap with the help of our delegation. So again, thank you to our board for keeping the focus on those top 3 goals, and to all of the other partners who work with us. The theme from the State of the District was Better Together, and truly we are making gains for our students by doing that. Finally, in that area, I would mention we're trying to figure out what a pivot looks like. So we've been talking about eliminating opportunity gaps. We've made several shifts in our terminology over time. We've gone from excellence in our strategic plan to excellence and equity. We've gone from all students in our strategic plan to every student, and we've gone from closing gaps to eliminating gaps. And then most recently, we're recognizing that eliminating opportunity gaps starts with that deficit view, and so we're trying to pivot to what does a positive view look like. So it might be too clever, but EOG2 might be ensuring opportunities for greatness to make that pivot. And then how do we demonstrate a belief in every student no matter what? How do we build relationships that are meaningful and sustainable? And how do we support students by knowing their story, strength, and need, and building on their dreams? So together we are doing great work. Still much work to do in eliminating opportunity gaps, but a lot of good work underway. Good news, interagency recently graduated 12 students during the middle of the year. Southwest Airlines helped Emerson provide food for needy families over the Thanksgiving holidays. Rainier Beach and Garfield went deep into the playoffs for football, and Rainier Beach came in second. Betty Batu had starring athletes, I think, on both sides of the field that evening, and I was pleased to be there and have the opportunity to present the second-placed trophy to Rainier Beach. Increased unified support. Director Geary's been working, I think, for the last 3 months on figuring out how to make a generous donation to that, and is setting that up as a matching fund, and we're learning a lot about how we can streamline our processes for accepting money from people that want to contribute to great causes. Not quick enough, sorry. Ballard won the big prize nationally, $100,000 for library technology. They're doing cool stuff. Outstanding music educator, Courtney Rowley, recognized by the Washington Music Education Association. Heroes in the Classroom, Broadview Thompson teacher Brian Robertson, honored by the Seahawks and Symetra. And 14th year Promise Scholarship. First day on the job, Mayor Durkin announced her 14th year Promise Scholarships. I'm not quite sure about all of the details. I think that it builds on the 13th year scholarships that mainly the South Seattle College are providing in 4 of our high schools. And then I think Garfield and Ingram are next up for Central and North. So it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it as a kind of a banner or an advertising slogan that we can align all of our college-ready programs around. We must have a dozen or more, and hold out that college promise for every student in Seattle. Topics of community interest: transportation strike. As you know, we had the one-day strike. And we're continuing to monitor on a daily basis the conversations between First Student, who's our contractor, and the Teamsters, who represent the bus drivers. And yeah, so we'll continue to stay in touch with families and hope that we don't have another work stoppage, but we'll continue to monitor that. City Memorandum of Understanding has been in the works for a while. Thank you to the board members who had an intense round of conversations about 2 weeks ago, and had the opportunity at Memorial Stadium and Seattle Center to be with the City of Seattle, Mayor Burgess at that point in time, and Leslie Harris is representative of the board, and then I was there, and Bruce Harrell was there representing the city council, signing an MOU saying we're taking one step further toward some kind of partnership at Seattle Center. So not quite sure what the right metaphor is. Both sides continue to hold veto power, but it's basically a demonstration of goodwill, that we think that there's a good deal in there for all of us by working together. And although the mayor was departing in his left office, had a lot of good things to say about the potential for partnering, possibly even monetarily, in terms of design, land, and construction costs. So I wouldn't bank on that, but it was certainly an affirmation of the shared dream for doing great things at that site. Ethnic studies, true, and Fort Lawton. Actually, there's more in that agreement than just Seattle Center. Fort Lawton is in there, which preserves the school district's ability to use 6 acres of that property, probably initially as a soccer field, and continuing to keep our options for potential future use. And then others, Downtown School, Roosevelt Reservoir, quite a few other property possibilities that may come to fruition. Ethnic Studies continues to work toward a framework that we can pilot starting second semester. So we do have some teachers that have come forward to work on that curriculum framework. And then lastly, later on the agenda tonight, we do have the student assignment plan and the highly capable pathways piece. Thank you to the board for the extra work session that we had on this topic last week. Staff have been working diligently. I think you have here at your places some of the emails that staff have generated after that meeting last Wednesday, trying to get the additional information to you that you asked for and needed. And I would say that our goal is to, if not make a decision tonight, get closer to a smaller number of options. We tee up tomorrow in the Ops Committee the high school boundaries discussion, and we bring that for first reading to the board on January 4th, and then a second reading in late January, and then we have to go out for open enrollment. So if we're going to keep to the timeline that the board had asked us to do, which was get high school boundaries out there 2 years in advance, so the 8th grade parents, 8th graders and 8th grade parents could know what they were picking and what was coming. So know that that's a complicated issue. Know that still lots of questions, but we'll be looking forward to the discussion later on this evening and hoping that we can at least narrow the options so that we preserve the sanity of staff and get good information to you and to the public as to what we're considering in a timely way. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would like to welcome Tina Dang. She's a senior at Cleveland High School. She is the editor-in-chief of Cleveland Publications and has been class president for her grade for the past 3 years. She has won 4 National Journalism Awards and will pursue business in college. I will now turn it over to Tina for her remarks. Go Eagles.
Thank you. My name is Tina Deng, and I'm the editor-in-chief for Cleveland Publications, which is Cleveland High School's journalism program, also known as CPUB. So my first leadership role in CPUB was last year when I was promoted to design director. I'd previously been a photographer, but my award-winning advisor, Teresa Scribner, saw my potential for design, and she pushed me out of my comfort zone towards design. And that's what journalism is about. Our team finds assignments that push us out of our comfort zone. Our team of 39 students have very high standards for the work we produce. We keep pushing until we get it right and own up to our mistakes when we get it wrong, which is why I believe we succeed as a journalism program. Cleveland Publications has not only received state-level awards, but national ones that recognize us for our photography, design, and writing. Last year, our small team competed against thousands of student journalists from around the nation. Our advisor was also receiving national recognition for her work. At the JEA NSPA National Journalism Convention held in Seattle, our staff members won awards for news commentary writing, photography, and we also received the highest honor, Superior, for graphic design. This year, CPUB took first place for Design of the Year for newspaper spreads. It is one of the highest honors that is given in high school journalism and is equivalent to a Pulitzer Prize. Cleveland Publications also placed 5th for page 1 design. Although being part of Cleveland Publications is very stressful, being able to work with my peers on something we're all passionate about is personally rewarding. The late nights I spend working on tight deadlines for the newspaper and yearbook has made me realize the passions I have for photography and design. Being a part of Cleveland Publications has brought out the best in me, and I cannot be more thankful for that. Thank you for listening.
I would suggest that perhaps there may be some internship opportunities down in this building to work with other very talented folks. Thanks for showing up, thanks for caring, and thank you for your leadership. We have now reached the consent portion of tonight's agenda. May I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Do you need to have items removed?
I'm sorry? You need to move the consent agenda, and then anyone can second that motion.
Okay, new roles for people up here now. I move for the approval. Which one is it? I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Do directors have any items they would like to remove from the consent agenda? I've been advised of 2. Director Pinkham.
Yes, I'm moving to remove from the consent agenda. I got to make sure I'm on the right ones. Item number 8, Bexex Wing Luke Elementary School Replacement Project, and where's the Magnolia one?
Right above it.
Right above it. This is the one right above it. Okay. Yes, and number 7, the BTA 4 modification contract K1243.
Thank you. Then we need to go back to the consent agenda as amended. Vote that up or down by consensus, voice vote, and then return to the 2 motions that have been taken off of the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move approval of consent agenda as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We are then to number
7.
7.
BTA modification of contract K1243 for architecture engineering services.
Mr. Best, the floor is yours.
I'm Richard Best, Director of Capital Projects and Planning for Seattle Public Schools. And please be pleased to answer Director Pinkham's questions concerning item number 7.
Director Pinkham.
Well, some of the concerns I have is, one, just to bring it out for more public exposure, the rising costs of this project. If we can get those hopefully out there in public a bit more. And also the idea as far as this not aggravating racial imbalance versus minimizing racial imbalance, and how we can move forward with this.
Yes. I will say that this project bid in May of 2017. It bid at that time approximately $5 million over budget, and we were looking at approximately having to make a transfer of almost $6 million from the program contingency. At that time, we made a decision because we'd had projects coming in on our construction estimates that we've been receiving from our cost estimators to punt and rebid this project in the fall. We reached out to several contractors that we were working with. All advised us at that time that we thought we'd get more favorable construction pricing in the fall. We did implement some redesign and some value engineering efforts over the summer. We did rebid the project in the fall. We did see some savings. We did not see as much as we anticipated. I will also say at our BEX Oversight Committee meeting in July, we hosted a panel discussion with several contractors and a cost estimator about, is this a fundamental shift in the market, given the amount of work that is currently available to contractors? And I think the consensus was from that panel discussion that yes, for the foreseeable future, we are going to see a fundamental shift in the construction market. And I will just bring to the board's attention or remind the board, because I think I have made this comment in the past, there is literally $7 billion worth of projects that have been voted on and approved by voters between 2014 and today, from Olympia to Mount Vernon. In addition, Sound Transit has approved a $50 billion bond for their expansion. And then we have private sector work as well, Amazon in Southeast Lake Union, and most recently Microsoft's announcement concerning their campus property last week. So we have a very active construction market, and so I think costs are increasing, Director Pinkham, for our school projects. So we're recommending that we utilize some of our program contingency, which those dollars are set aside for, to address an unanticipated higher escalation than was anticipated at the time the levy was put together.
I'd appreciate a hold up, and if you could read the motion into the record, and then we'll need a second.
Thanks.
And this will be a roll call vote. We'll continue discussion. It's on your sheet. Go with this one.
I move the school board authorize superintendent to execute contract modification with Malham Architects in the amount of $508,646 for the Magnolia Elementary School renovation and addition project with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions to implement the contract modification.
I second the motion.
Thank you. And do we have further comments? Were you finished with your comments, Director Pinkham?
Did we want to
And
comment on,
excuse me.
Yeah.
did we want to comment that this was moved forward from ops
Most definitely we do.
on November 2nd for consideration?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, and the reason for consideration was, but now back in November 2nd.
Exactly the point that you're raising now, Director Pinkham, that we believe that because of the cost increase, that this would be something that we would want to bring to light and that we would want to make sure that the board had an opportunity to consider.
Director Mack, and it's such a thing to be able to say.
Just for clarification on the process through which this project has gone through for development and bidding, I understand there's different ways that you can do that: design, bid, build, and
Correct.
GCCM, which if GCCM is used, then you have architects, contractors, and people doing the work actually working together on the design.
Correct.
Which of those was used in this one?
We used the design bid build procurement methodology, Director Mack.
Okay. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask that follow-up question of,
You may.
is it possible that while going back in history, we can't undo what's been done, but is it possible that a project like this in the future would benefit from GCCM as opposed to?
Definitely. This is a historic renovation. I think it would have been helpful to have had a contractor on board to help provide some guidance concerning the historic portion of the building. We had some conversations. We opted for utilizing the design bid build procurement method, but I think this would be a project that would get CPARB approval using the GCCM process as well. And
CPARB
CPARB
approval.
is an outside agency, it's an outside board selected by the governor to oversee alternative public works construction. And so the acronym stands for Capital Projects Alternative Review Board.
Go ahead.
And we're essentially far too late in the process to back up and do it that way.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other directors, comments, concerns, or questions? Director Pinkham.
Yeah, and then about the racial imbalance aggravating and minimizing, and just if you can.
We
address that.
worked, and I appreciate that question, Director Pinkham. We worked very closely with OSPI. This is a school that we needed language inserted in the resolution that says we'll work to minimize. We do not have the boundaries established at this time for Magnolia Elementary School. So it's difficult to know exactly what the implications are for racial balance, but we do know from, I'm going a little bit by memory here, that we actually, with opening of Magnolia, we were not creating a racially imbalanced school at Magnolia, and we're actually enhancing the racial imbalance at one other elementary school. We were slightly aggravating at two existing elementary schools. So we were working to minimize, from a district perspective, the amount of schools that we had that were racially imbalanced.
And OSPI was accepting of that
we had
explanation.
we had numerous conversations with OSPI about this.
Associate Superintendent Flip Herndon, Dr. Flip Herndon.
Hi there. Yes, we work closely with OSPI. They ultimately are the ones who decide to approve the deform process, and that
Deform means?
There are a series of steps that you take with OSPI to approve state capital match dollars. So the deforms are the series of steps that we go through. You see a couple of these on the agenda items that we go through. And so working closely with them, not having the boundaries, but also having a timeline for construction, we had to make sure that we were going to meet their approval and they would approve that for us to move forward in that process.
Do we have other directors' comments, concerns, or questions? Seeing none, Ms. Scheck, the roll call, please.
Director Burke,
Aye.
Director DeWolf,
Aye.
Director Geary,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Nay.
Director Harris.
Aye.
This motion is passed with a vote of 6-1.
Director Pinkham, would you move, please, the motion number 8 that's been taken from the consent calendar agenda?
I move the school board accept the value engineering report dated June 2017 and the architect's response and recommendation matrix for the Wing Luke Elementary replacement project.
Do we have a second and a report from Ops Committee, please?
I second the motion. This was heard in Ops on November 2nd and passed to the board for approval.
Director Pinkham.
Yeah, and when this was introduced, I brought up the question as far as demolishing a recent addition and I didn't see a response as far as was there a commitment that we had that new addition or that addition would be used for a certain number of years?
Yes. No, there's no requirement. I did look into that, Director Pinkham. There's no requirement that we utilize that addition for a certain period of years. That addition was not funded by the state of Washington. It was funded by local taxpayers.
And then how do we then respond to local taxpayers where we build something and then 12 years later we tear it down to build something else?
When we looked at this project and the placement of that existing addition, it would actually be cost beneficial for the construction of this current project that is contemplated to remove the addition and build it as it is articulated by the architects. Saving that building would have made some awkward educational program compromises and would have probably cost as much as the current project is new to marry those additions in, and that's not uncommon when you have some existing spaces that have been added on in the manner in which they were added on many years ago. So I can tell you from a cost-effective standpoint, you've got a cost-effective proposal at Wing Luke Elementary School.
Do you have an estimate about how much of that costs we would be saving by not doing the, without, let's say, if we just kept the current structure then added onto it versus tearing it down?
Well, the new addition at Wing Luke Elementary School, and I say new addition because it was added about 15 years ago, is right in the center portion of that entire site. That center portion, you do not want to have to marry into the existing, the new buildings that are being proposed into that new addition without having educational compromises that we will make in the new facility that's being contemplated from a design standpoint. We did look at trying to save that addition. That was one of the directions that was given to the architect, and from a cost standpoint, I don't believe we would save, from my understanding of those conversations, I do not believe we will save money if we retain that addition. And I'm happy to provide additional information on this in a Friday memo to the board. It won't be this Friday because I've missed that cutoff date, but I can get additional information for you.
Did you have further comments, questions, concerns, Director Pinkham?
Well, if they're going to send additional information on later, I'm not sure then if I can vote on this.
I will remind the school board that this project will have several other opportunities. This is, your approval is required for a value engineering report tonight. You're not approving the contractor's contract on this, and there will be numerous other requirements. This is one of the items that's required for our deform process that Flip mentioned earlier, and you'll have other items coming before you to comply with OSBI's requirements on the deform. So
this isn't an approval right now to tear down that addition? It's just that may be one of the costs?
This is an approval on the value engineering report that was submitted. And what I'm hearing from you, what you're saying, Director Pinkham, is go back and take another look and provide the board with the rationale for why the decision was made to tear down the addition in lieu of trying to save the addition and retain that in the new project. And I can do that. I just can't do that tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Other directors' comments, concerns, and questions? Director DeWolf.
I just had a question about, you said it's been about 15 years?
Correct. Approximately 15
Sure.
years. And I'll put the exact date as to when it's constructed in the Friday memo to the board.
I'm not too worried about necessarily the exact number, but I guess my question would be, given that time frame, are there different advances in environmental standards, kind of energy efficiency, and those kind of things that would also kind of support the decision, given that would be better to just recreate everything all together at the same time?
Correct.
Okay.
You'd have different code regulatory agency standards
Thank
in
you.
the areas that you talked about.
Director Mack.
As a newbie, I have a process question about the deform process and the items that come to the board for approval. Are those presented to the ops committee or to us for each project that we have as, here's the project and here's all the items and timeline for when we are going to be bringing these decision points to the board? Does that exist somewhere, or is that something that, because you just listed that there are other decision points on Wing Luke. I mean, if we have 6 decision points, it'd be nice to know that up front on each project.
So the deform process that OSPI utilizes, we submit the odd number forms. OSPI returns to the school district with authorization the even number forms. We literally go from a D1 through D12, D12 being final acceptance of that project from OSPI, and that there's no other requirements needed. And we're authorized to release retainage. But with each odd number D form that we submit, there is probably 10 to 12 items that we have to submit. Some of those items do need to come to the board. They all go to the operations committee first, Director Mack, and then the operations committee will have a conversation with myself and sometimes with senior project managers, and then they come to the board. That's kind of our process.
Associate Superintendent Dr. Herndon, please.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because the time process does drag on for a little bit. We do have a cheat sheet that basically shows the different processes for projects, but you wouldn't necessarily get an exact date, because they kind of, if there's one part of the process that goes on a little farther, it might drag on. So what you would get is the sequence of approvals, but not necessarily, this one will be coming to you in May of 2018, but you could see the sequence that's coming for you.
Director Patu.
As the board director for that particular school, I too would like to find out about that part that you were talking about, removing it.
Yeah.
And exactly, that would be a great idea to let me know. Is that something that actually, does it save money, or it's just something that's going to you just remove it and not really see a lot of loss in there? So hopefully when you send information out to Director Pinkham, I would like to see that same information. Thank you.
Okay.
Other director comments, questions, concerns? Director DeWolf? And Director Burke, were you next?
I'm sitting, I realized. Shoot. I just, I know this is technically out of order, but I just want to say, Tina, thank you for presenting. I don't know if you want to sit through this part of it. I know that this is certainly riveting for a high schooler, so if you do want to not sit up here and feel like you're in front of everything.
Actually, I'd encourage her to stay for the whole darn meeting.
I just wanted to let you know you have an out.
Certainly, you are welcome to stay as long as you like, with no judgment from when you decide you need to catch up on homework. Are there other questions, comments, or concerns from directors, please? And/or could we make a request for the cheat sheet referenced to be sent in the Friday memo as well to all of your board directors? We like that idea.
I believe we do have, that was passed out earlier. Yes.
That's a
So for the new ones, it might be in your little drawer in front of you.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Ms. Scheck, the roll call, please.
Director DeWolf,
Aye.
Director Geary,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Burke,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the election of officers. As the Secretary of the Board who presides over the election process, I am handing the gavel to Superintendent Nyland.
Thank you. Before I open the floor for nominations, I'd like to review the election steps. I guess before the review, by state law, we elect officers at the first meeting in December after elections are certified, 2 weeks after the election that was held earlier in November. So the procedures for the nomination piece tonight is that for each of the officer positions, there's 3 of them, president, vice president, and member at large, I'll take nominations from the board. A second's not required, but certainly can be made. After the nominations are made for a position, there'll be an opportunity for directors to provide comments before voting. After the comments have been concluded, the board will vote for each position in the order that the nominations were made. By law and board policy, the voting will be conducted by a roll call vote. The voting will conclude for that particular position at the point when one nomination gets 4 or more votes. After the president has been elected, we'll move on to the vice president and then the member at large elections. In summary, for each position, there'll be nominations, then discussion, then voting. At the conclusion of the election process, for all 3 positions, each new officer will have an opportunity to provide their remarks. Nominations are now in order for the office of president.
Can I go?
Director DeWolf, and then, well, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Director Jill Geary.
I second.
Jill Geary has been nominated for president. Are there additional nominations?
I would like to nominate Director Leslie Harris.
Leslie Harris has been nominated. Are there any additional nominations for president? Are there any additional nominations for president? All right, at this point, we'd welcome comments, and those comments might be from the nominees, from the candidates, or I suppose, yeah, comments from any of the directors. Director Geary.
So it's with great honor that I run to be the president of this board. I can't say enough how proud I have been to serve in this capacity for the last 2 years. It is a joy every single time I sit up here, no matter how much people ask me, you know, what we're facing. I will tell them every single time that I love this job and I love representing Seattle and I love fighting and working on the education of our kids. And I believe so much in the work that this board does. I believe in the planning we do around our goals, and I believe in the goals that we have set around equity, around challenging education, and around community engagement. And I've loved the way that month after month, week after week, and even day after day, I see each one of our board directors come behind those goals one way or another. And I want to make sure that we continue to plan and move forward in achieving our goals. I recognize as well that each one of you has your own focus, and that at times we know that the passion that we bring can distract us from some of the work that needs to be done, and that we are generous in our belief in the amount of resources that are available to move forward today on bettering the education of every one of our kids. We are impatient, and that is wonderful. I wish we had the funds to bankroll all the projects that we do, and so that we want to do. And so, as a president, I want to be very mindful that I will always test whatever it is that we are trying to move forward on against the goals that we have all agreed on. And that's something that is really important to me, because sometimes it feels like there is pressure, and we know the staff is making choices to please us as individuals that may be sacrificing the goals of the whole. And we need to have those discussions, and we need to talk about it and move forward, and I want to do that. In order for us to do that best, we know we have to engage our community partners, from our staff here to our people in our buildings, to our community-based operations, to our city, county, and even our state. We have to make sure that they continue to show up every single day, that they take our calls, that when they have something they want to get done or some resources that they want to share, that they're thinking about calling Seattle Public Schools first. And I want to make sure that we have the atmosphere that welcomes them and is positive around it. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that we're here to answer that phone with a yes and a we can do it, and let's make it happen. I think, as Superintendent Nyland mentioned, just my trying to give funds for Unified has been more of a challenge than I would ever want it to be, and we need to work on that. I'm an internal partner, and it's hard to give money to our district. I want to make sure that when our partners come, we're making it easy to partner with them and make sure that we're getting this done. But I won't ever want to forget that we need to celebrate the successes. And I copied that New York Times article today because it's showing that we're making 5.7 years of growth for our students over a 5-year period. That's huge. We're one of the best in the nation, and that is thanks to all the hard work of the people in this room and in our buildings, and their willingness to look at, and I looked at that article, and what was it saying? Strong building leaders, collaborative teaching, data focus to get down to individualized students and provide supports where needed. It was everything that our staff has been telling us week after week, and when we have our schools come in. And I want to make sure that we are supporting all of that work as a board. MTSS is working. It's working in Chicago to close their gap, and it's working here. We're making great growth. And I want to make sure that we're celebrating those successes and helping us stay focused to make sure that that's happening. So if you vote for me as your board president, I will keep us focused. I will make sure that all of your voices are heard, that we are abiding by the process of our board, and that we're doing the work that is going to change education for our public school students in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Dr. Burke?
I'll just speak briefly on behalf of my nomination of Director Leslie Harris for the president role as well. And I don't want to overspeak on her behalf, but what I see we have here on our board is what I would consider a Class A problem, where we have amazing leadership. And I think I'm sitting next to Director Geary, and I've worked with several of these folks as well for the last couple of years, and I'm looking forward to working with 2 additional ones. But in our district, we have or on the board, we have this commitment to distributed leadership. And everybody takes a role in that. And I continue to be impressed with the strong leadership role that Director Harris has taken as well. Asking hard questions, yes, sometimes. But I'm going to share a little story because I wanted to embarrass Leslie. That when I first campaigned with Director Harris, I was like, you know what? I think I'm a little bit scared. I'll be honest. And then I got to know her, and I was like, wow, what an amazing person, and what an amazing commitment to what she does. And it really kind of opened my eyes to how that enthusiasm coupled with that level of heart and passion can be really powerful for us as well. So that's the basis of my nomination, and I leave you with that.
Thank you. Other comments?
Testing. Okay. Sometimes I can't tell. if this
Director
is going
DeWolf.
yet. Thank you. I wanted to first start with a story because I like stories. I appreciate the perspective that I bring, and that sounds really humble. What I mean is, I am very grateful to be able to sit up here and have a perspective of somebody who has been building community around schools and community organizing and making sure to engage folks in my community. And one of the things I learned pretty recently with two examples with my as president of the Capitol Hill Community Council, and then also as somebody who is who also still has a full-time job. Every day I have to show up to a job, make sure I'm there on time, which sometimes is hard, but thankfully there's coffee across the street. And I show up, and I have to make sure that I do my job the best I can. And I have to do it because I want to be there, I love being there, and the people that are going to keep me accountable are my bosses and my colleagues. And I have been so grateful to be able to sit down with so many of our directors and the staff here at the Seattle School District in the last couple of weeks. And let me tell you, the onboarding process for new school board directors is pretty intense. And one of the things that has stuck out to me is that for my job, I have to do a good job, or my boss is going to call me out. And a part of how they make sure to motivate me is to keep me accountable and make sure to let me know when I'm doing things right. And I want to build the trust and the relationships with our staff. And just today, to affirm that you are doing a kick-ass job. And I see that today. I see that in the New York Times. And I want to continue seeing that. A part of it is that in making sure that we're building a relationship with that staff. I believe that there is a difference between accountability and adversarial. And I believe that what we need is someone that keeps our school staff accountable, just like my boss does. Because every day you have to show up to your job because you love what you're doing. And I want to make sure that we work well together, just like the state of the district, better together. So for me, I know that from the conversations I've had, from the people that stop me on the corner of the street in my neighborhood, from the mom that stopped me on the train yesterday and said, "You're having presidential elections, right?" And I said, "Oh man, is this really how it's going to be now? Reality? Everybody's just going to stop me on the train?" And she said, "Please, please, make sure to vote for Jill Geary." And that comes from the fact that I think that Jill has done an incredible job being an equity champion, really strong listener and learner, and make sure to show up and work well together with our staff. And I'm really looking forward to your leadership. So thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Other comments? Director Harris?
Okay, then. People ask me, what do you think? How's it going? And I say many of the same things, and please appreciate my extraordinary deep respect for my colleague and my apparent competitor, Director Jill Geary. We're in a good position to be able to have this issue, I believe. This is the most difficult and rewarding work I've ever done in my life, and that's after doing 35 years worth of litigation for victims, changing laws, making products safer, making medical procedures safer, and protecting folks' civil rights. I do ask hard questions because I believe that hard questions are one of the reasons that you have elected the folks up here. I certainly try very hard to ask those questions respectfully and collaboratively, and I'm especially proud of the work we were able to do last year week in, week out on the Community Engagement Task Force with a great deal of outreach. We have seen extraordinary gains, but we didn't do that by ourselves. We did that as a team. I believe in team. I don't believe in the word I. There is no I in team. I worked very hard in the last 2 years, and I'm honored to do so. I appreciate feedback. I believe that this board of directors in the last 2 years has become a more thoughtful, a more detail-oriented, and a more collegial board than we have seen in past years. And I believe we can do even better. And I believe we can do even better in terms of our board not having silos as well. And we're going to need some new tools to do that without violating the Open Public Meetings Act, because no one's interested in doing that. Transparency has been my goal from day one. I'm extremely proud as well of the memorandum of understanding with the city, which was delicate, which required a great deal of negotiation, and unfortunately, because it had to do with real estate, was not done in the transparent manner that I would have very much liked to have seen. But moving forth, we now have a framework with which to do that. And capacity crisis is really critical. Being in the EIS for Fort Lawton, I believe, is something that we will be appreciative of 20 years from now. Very difficult choices, but leadership requires very difficult choices. We have very difficult choices coming up to the dais just this evening, and when we look forward to this next year, they are indeed going to be challenges. But I very much hope that we can do whatever it is we do openly, collaboratively, push back when necessary, and with a sense of humor and thankfulness. Thank you very much.
Director Mack?
I think I'd just like to say that all the people sitting at this dais I have the greatest respect for and appreciation for the work that I've seen, witnessed, experienced, and participated in over the past 4 years, 2 years, some longer. And however this goes out, I know that we will work together as a board and be collaborative and continue the work forward, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Director Patu.
I too would like to follow what Director Mack have already said. I believe that this board have worked together very well in the last 4 years that we've been together. I think that's how many years we've been together. Oh, 2 years? Okay. Well, hey. You know. Maybe because I've been on it too long. But I believe that if we're going to accommodate any issue that the district has, there's 7 of us up here. We have to be able to work together honestly and be able to share our ideas. And, you know, sometimes we may not agree with everything that each other say. But I think that as a board, directors who our community has actually nominated for us to vote for us to be up here, it's so important that all of us work together as a team. No matter how it turns out tonight, who votes for who. But I think we need to just focus on who can do the best job and how do we work together as a team. So that way we can continue on the work that all of us have put a lot of time and effort into it. And I want to say that I appreciate all the board directors who are here tonight. And you know what? Whoever wins tonight, we will completely be able to support that individual because we're all one. And we need all 7 of us to work together as a team. So thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Director Pinkham.
Couldn't be the only one not to say anything, but I just want to say I appreciate all of our board members up here and what they do, and Director Geary and Director Harris and what you've led. And I definitely see strengths in both of you and what you bring to this board. And you know, as people think about who you're going to vote for, you know, right now I wouldn't think there would be a wrong vote for either one of these. But I just want to let you know that I truly support each and every one of you and look forward to the vote. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments? Hearing no further comments, Ms. Scheck, please call the roll for the vote of Director Geary for president.
Director Geary,
Aye.
Director Mack,
No.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Nay.
Director Harris, Director Burke,
Nay.
Director DeWolf.
Yes.
The nomination of Director Geary fails by a vote of 3 to 4.
Ms. Scheck, please call the roll for the vote of Director Harris for president.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Patu,
Nay.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Burke,
Aye.
Director DeWolf,
No.
Director Geary.
No.
The nomination of Director Harris is approved by a vote of 4 to 3.
Congratulations on your election.
I meant what I said. I have beyond extraordinary respect for Director Geary and everyone at this dais. Thank you.
Nominations are now in order for the office of Vice President. Director Mack.
I'd like to nominate Director Burke for Vice President.
Director Burke has been nominated for Vice President. Are there any other nominations? Are there any further nominations for Vice President? Hearing none, I will close the nominations for Vice President, and I will invite comments from any of the directors. Director Burke.
It would seem appropriate for me to make a brief comment, so I thank you to Director Mack for the nomination. I'm honored at the privilege to serve on the executive committee and to help build the vision that you heard from the entire board, from Board President Harris and Director Geary, my colleague, and how we build that level of collaboration, goals alignment, fiduciary responsibility, accountability, and respect. I'm honored to serve in that role.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Director Pinkham.
I just want to let Director Burke know that I appreciate everything that he's done for the district for the 2 years that we served on this together. And I missed you because we were on the C&I committee the first year together, and definitely appreciate the direction that you provided for that. Then this year, we weren't on the same committees, so I definitely do welcome you to help out the executive committee as Vice President, and look forward to the vote here again, and hopefully welcome you to the executive committee. Thank you.
Director Harris.
I could not be more pleased with this nomination. And I think that Director Burke's strengths align and balance some of my strengths. And one of the best things about serving for 2 years with Director Burke is he is not afraid to push back, usually with a smile, and usually to ask the question that raises the bar higher and higher, both in terms of thinking, in terms of systems, and in terms of sustainable. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Scheck, please call the roll for Director Burke for the office of Vice President.
I move we do by acclamation.
I believe we're required by law to do it by roll call.
I withdraw that motion. Thank you.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Burke,
I suppose.
Director DeWolf,
Aye.
Director Geary,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
The nomination of Director Burke has passed unanimously.
Congratulations. Nominations are now in order for the office of Member at Large, who serves with the President and Vice President on the Executive Committee. Are there nominations for Member at Large? Director DeWolf.
I'd like to nominate Jill Geary.
Jill Geary has been nominated as Member at Large. Are there other nominations? Director Burke.
I would like to nominate Scott Pinkham.
Scott Pinkham has been nominated. Are there other nominations for Member at Large? Are there any further nominations? Okay. Hearing none, I close the nominations for Member at Large and would invite board comments. Director Geary.
One of the things that, why I'd like to be considered for the at-large position is because while my colleagues, Director Burke, Director Harris, and Director Pinkham all work during the day at very important jobs, I have a great deal of freedom in my time during the day. I know the executive is often required to respond very quickly on things. And I believe that in addition to all the other skills that I could bring and why I asked to be considered for president, that it would be a good addition to the executive to have somebody who is very much available and can be responsive during the day in case that Director Burke is traveling on behalf of his business, which happens, or Director Harris is caught up in litigation, which happens. So I'd like to bring my enthusiasm for the work, my attention to the process and flow of the work over time to the position of at-large so that I can support our board as a whole in its planning and its execution of the very important role that it plays in making sure that all the voices on the board are brought to bear in our decision-making.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Director Pink.
I'm currently the member at large on the executive committee, and I did voice that I would like to continue in that capacity. I wasn't, like president, vice president. No, I felt like I have a good position as a member at large because one allows me to more sit back and observe, and that's more my kind of personality, that I like to sit back and observe, see how things are going, and then I could bring in the comments and perspectives to help augment and direct this direction, this school district, and what I feel would be a good direction for all. Yes, I do feel like I represent sometimes the voices that aren't heard all the time, and it's interesting to see sometimes that people will somebody like shake their head, oh, like I never thought of that before. So I feel like that's what I can bring to the executive committee to let them know that there are voices out there that we do need to hear, and I appreciate, yes, Jill Geary also does that as well. And there are a number of voices we need to hear. And so I would be honored if I can continue to serve on the executive committee as a member at large.
Thank you. Other comments? Director Harris.
My comments are not so much a vote against. This doesn't feel good, frankly, but a vote for Scott Pinkham's quiet, thoughtful, consistent leadership. And I feel very strongly that we also need to have a person of color on our executive board because he brings a different lens to the conversations, and I think that's terribly important. I appreciate Director Geary's availability, but my hope is we don't elect part-time directors based on whether or not they have the capacity for a director position that pays very, very little and does not need to work for a living. There are times when one of the 3 executive committee members might not be available, but we have never, to my knowledge, hit a time when all 3 were not available. And some of the scheduling issues that Director Geary refers to can be addressed by the use of different tools and enhanced communication. But I hope we do not ever become the kind of a board that determines one's position in an elected position by virtue of availability because the legislature has determined that our value is not enough to earn a living wage. And it feels very awkward to say that, and I don't like having to say it, but I do think it's terribly important that it be said. Thank you.
Director Mack.
These are going to be tough decisions. This whole being on the board thing and making decisions. I would like to say that I was not aware that Director Geary was going to be interested in this position, and I'm kind of excited about hearing about that because I support the leadership that she offers, and part of my reasoning around my vote is I'm a policy and process wonk, and it matters in terms of how we run things, and having experience chairing committees and being on the executive committee to me is actually really meaningful, and I think that having Jill Geary perhaps having the opportunity to do that and do president next year would be a really great opportunity. I also think it's potentially a really balancing perspective on our executive committee, not as much of the racial equity lens, but in terms of perspective, it might be. So these are tough decisions, and I have some thinking to do in the next few minutes, I guess.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing no further comments, Ms. Scheck, please call the roll for vote for Director Geary for the position of member at large.
Director Pinkham,
I'm sorry that someone is tweaking my ear. Who are we voting on here first?
We have which first?
Director Geary is the first vote, was first nominee.
Okay, then I'd have to say nay.
Director Burke,
Wow. Aye.
Director DeWolf,
Aye.
Director Geary,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Harris,
If we could do acclamation given this vote, I would go for that, so I would be the word for me.
The nomination of Director Geary is approved by a vote of 5 to 2.
Congratulations,
6 to 1.
Director Geary.
don't know if people know this, but I've ran for the executive member at large each year I've been here.
That's right.
So I guess 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
All right. Madam,
I want to just say, I appreciate very much Director Pinkham's participation on the executive. And I definitely, in running for president, remembered that that was one of the first things he did on the board. He ran for president as the newly elected member, and I thought that was a really brave and exciting thing to do. So I remember that, and it really bolstered me in taking the chance to run now. So thank you, Director Pinkham.
Madam President, I'd like to report that the officers for the Board of Directors for 2018 are President, Director Harris, Vice President, Director Burke, Member at Large, Director Geary. And I would now like to invite our newly elected officers, beginning with the President, to offer any remarks that they'd like to make.
I will do my best job. I am willing to listen. I think we are going to have a very challenging but a terrific year. And given the fact that this room is full of folks that are waiting to testify, I will hand the mic to Vice President Burke.
Director Pinkham, I miss you too. We got to find some time, maybe some committee somewhere. So I'm honored to work with both of you and the rest of the board.
Director at Large, Director Geary.
Thank you, everybody, for your vote, and thank you, everybody, for showing up today. It's going to be an exciting year, and I count on everybody to keep showing up so we can get this work done on behalf of our kids. Thank you.
I now turn the gavel back to President Harris.
And I have lost my script, but I can tell you that we are 12 minutes behind starting public testimony, and the rules of public testimony are on the screen. Is that correct?
Looks like, yes.
Yeah, you do. Ms. Scheck will read each of the 3 upcoming people to testify. Without reading all of the public testimony rules that are on the screen, it is my hope that even though we may be testifying about sensitive, passionate topics, that we keep a level of decorum so that we can understand your hearts and your issues. We must say, however, that there will be no comments regarding personnel comments. Personnel issues are beyond the purview of the board and against the board policy. And I appreciate there are a number of folks here that want to speak to a particular staff person or volunteer, and I would encourage you not to make this a scenario where we have to shut you down, because no one wants to do that. There are multiple ways to contact the board of directors vis-a-vis email. If you want senior staff, schoolboard@seattleschools.org. If you want to communicate just to the directors, spsdirectors@seattleschools.org. You have 2 minutes to testify. 30 seconds before your testimony will be ended, the yellow light will come on so that you can see you're wrapping it up, and it comes a lot quicker than you think it will. Ms. Scheck, would you announce the first 3 names, please?
Sure. If you have any documents you'd like to share with the board, please bring them up to me at this time. First up for public testimony, we have Jay Kent, followed by Avery Wagger and Anna Nee.
Hi, members of the board. My name is Jay Kent, and I go to Cleveland High School. I am the content manager for the newspaper, along with my colleague Tina, who spoke shortly before. And at the risk of being redundant, I'd like to say again that the Cleveland Publications team has been both locally and nationally recognized for every aspect of our work, whether it's the journalism team, the photography team, or the design team. And one of the biggest factors in our team's success is how supportive our school's administrative team is. Cleveland is privileged enough to have a team of administrators who allow the journalism team to work as a separate entity to the school, investigating and printing whatever students are passionate about or interested in, even if a story may not have the kindest things to say about the administration team. Because of this freedom of speech that our administration grants us, Cleveland's student journalists are able to communicate and express the viewpoints of the school's students with passion and honesty, leading to a more powerful paper and a more engaged student body. Student reporters hold full responsibilities for their stories and quickly learn the importance of accountability and accuracy in journalism. If our team's writing was filtered by an administration team before it was published, it would reflect in our reporting. That learning experience for our students would end up being just another responsibility for the administration team. In an era where journalism and the free press itself is under attack from the highest office in the nation, student journalism has never needed more support and nurturing than it does now. That's why I'm baffled to hear when schools and administration teams filter their student journalists. At Cleveland, our administration team is willing to fight for our journalism team, and that fight's positive effect on our community is obvious and apparent. Because of all that, it is extremely important that the district starts giving student journalists the same rights and protections that they would for their local press. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Does this work? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Avery Wagger. I'm a freshman at Ballard High School, a Magnolia resident, and an older brother with 2 students at Catherine Blaine. Those of you who attended the September meeting at the Living Computers Museum had the opportunity to try my virtual reality astronomy simulator called StarVR, which is on display there. I hope some of you did. StarVR won the best 8th grade engineering project at District Science and Engineering Fair last year. My work on it propelled me to become the first freshman ever to enroll in AP Computer Science at Ballard. I started a virtual reality club with 23 members, and I am also in Ballard's digital filmmaking program, which is a 4-year pathway. Ballard has been great for me. I understand that the current staff recommendation, but more importantly, the student assignment plan, would allow me to finish high school at Ballard, and I'm thankful for this. Even so, I am sure that a student who starts Ballard next year or the year after will have achievements and contributions that far exceed mine and want to stay at Ballard as badly as I do. It's these students, as well as my younger siblings, and the students coming up to Blaine, Lawton, and McClure, that I'm standing up here today in opposition to the Scenario H2 high school boundary map. I urge you to vote against Amendment 1 to the 1819 transition plan for the reasons outlined by Directors Burke and Harris. And because without Amendment 1, the transition plan implicitly approves the Scenario H2 map. Additionally, I want to urge the voting members of the Operations Committee to vote on Thursday against recommending the growth boundaries placed on the Scenario H2 map out to the full board. Scenario H2 is a deeply flawed map. The task force and SPS staff did zero real work researching in the presentations, the implications for the students from a transition standpoint. An hour-plus commute each way for many students between Magnolia and Lincoln and Wallingford is unacceptable, and as one of the most accessible and frequent routes between Magnolia and Lincoln is also unsafe, taking students through a notoriously crime-ridden bus stop in downtown Seattle. Please don't abide a flawed process by voting for a flawed map. Send the task force and staff back to do the real work necessary before they make such an important recommendation that will impact so many students. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Anna Nee, we have Hani Ahmed, followed by Gian Rosario and Essence Roberson.
Okay. Hi, my name is Anna Nee. I go to Asa Mercer Middle School, and today I'll be sharing about the importance of computers in my school. Computers play a significant role in our academics, especially in science class. Computers and technology in general are extremely useful and convenient because they help students understand the curriculum by displaying simulations, models, videos, and articles. For instance, without the laptops, I wouldn't have been able to fully understand the criteria of the Force and Motion Engineering Unit and create a supply pod to the best of my ability. Computers and laptops also allow easy access to school websites, which makes it easier for us to check our grades and stay up to date with our schoolwork. Not only that, but many tests and quizzes are taken on laptops and computers. I think it's important to address that many of the school laptops are outdated or broken. Therefore, they often cause technical issues that can sometimes disrupt our classwork. But when they aren't broken, laptops provide the class with an easy way to turn in work to our teacher quickly and sufficiently. It's safe to say that computers are definitely a convenient resource that I know all students can benefit from.
Thank you.
Hani?
Good evening, Seattle School Board members. My name is Hani Ahmed, and I'm a student at Rainier Beach High School. First, I would like to welcome our new school board members. Second, I have questions that need to be answered by the board by the end of this month. First, will Rainier Beach High School be #1 priority above the downtown high school and middle school high schools? Second, I'm questioning why the board takes a long time on certain issues but expedites the process for other issues. The school board took quite a long time considering the renovation of Rainier Beach High School. While other issues like working with the city for the Fort Lawton site happened within a month. I also asked that the school board place the budget of Rainier Beach High School renovation to be on par with the spending of their other high school renovation budget within $80 million or exceeding $100 million. These quotes are from the archives from the Office of the Mayor. On November 20th, the City of Seattle and Seattle Public Schools announced a partnership to plan for a potential new school at Seattle Center, provide land for a new downtown elementary school, and allow the school district to join the Fort Lawton redevelopment agreement process. Second quote. The agreement signed today at Memorial Stadium outlines a process for this district and the city to plan together for a growing student population. Will the process include equity lens and the negative financial impact it might cause to other schools? The city also stated that there will be a financial partnership for Memorial Stadium's revitalization. How about Rainier Beach High School? Vice President Harris said, "We have added schools faster than we could add classrooms and buildings. Is the school board looking into improving the programs of under-enrolled schools?" Finally, as we presented at the previous school board meeting, the Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections GIS map show that Rainier Beach High School has not received the earthquake upgrades that it was promised in the last levy. Please respond to these questions by January 1st, 11:59 p.m. My email is... Thank you.
Thank you.
Gian? Gian's not here. Toby Nash.
Oh, Gian's not here.
He's not here. Essence, is that you? Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Essence Roberson, and I attend Rainier Beach High School. Sorry. I don't like public speaking.
Doing great.
If the school board has not heard, a charter school is being built less than 2 miles away from Rainier Beach High School and within a close distance from Aki Middle School as well. This charter school is the California-based Green Dot organization, which is apparently seeking city approval to build its Rainier Valley Leadership Academy at 3900 at South Holly Park Drive. If completed as planned, the school would be at least 58,000 square foot, 3-story building offering education to at least 600 students. With chartered schools in the South End, we structurally cannot compete to attract students, which could cause the decline of student enrollment, which affects the budgets of neighboring public schools. This is why it is important for Rainier Beach High School to have a renovation. Currently, the Green Dot Middle School is in operation, and parents are pulling their students out because they have been overpromised and underdelivered. They are not the answer to quality and equitable education. They will have to work out kinks for some time before delivering on any promises, but why wait when we have established that if we are given the right resources from the Seattle Public School District, we would outperform any charter school. We know that charter schools are publicly funded, but privately ran, and exempt from the rules of governing traditional public schools. They also drain resources from public schools. This new charter school in Rainier Valley is a detriment to Rainier Beach High School. The school board needs to fight a legal battle with the state for opening a school that diverts funds from public schools, especially in the scenario where charter schools are placed near socioeconomically challenged schools to leach their funding. The board needs to use its partnership with the city to shut down the construction of this charter school and future charter schools. Charter is not the answer. Thank you.
I'm going to take a point of personal privilege, and I would invite you to look at the introduction item regarding that very topic that has been sponsored by each of your directors. I believe it speaks to your point, and I'm very pleased to tell you that.
Thank you.
Yay. Next up for public testimony, we have Catherine McVickers, followed by James Wager and Kimberly Peterson.
My name is Katie McVickers. I have 3 Seattle Public School students, a junior, a freshman, and a 6th grader. I urge the school board to approve the 18-19 Student Assignment Transition Plan only with Amendment 1. In addition to approving the Student Assignment Transition Plan, I urge the school board to address the issue of HC pathways concurrently with the high school boundary proposals. It is no way acceptable nor equitable to prioritize one group of students over other students by securing a school destination for one group without concurrently considering all students. Regarding the related issue of high school boundaries, I oppose scenario H2. This proposal will create severe transportation problems for Magnolia students who would need to travel across town to get to Lincoln, which is version H2's proposed boundary school in Wallingford for Magnolia students. The commute from Magnolia to Lincoln is disproportionate to the commute times of all other SPS students. Magnolia students would be required to drive or take a bus with 2 to 3 buses, commuting anywhere between 40 minutes to well over an hour each way. Additionally, there is no frequent transit available in Magnolia. Unlike all the other neighborhoods in the district, Magnolia is not designated an urban village. Therefore, in addition to grossly disproportionate commute times, Magnolia lacks frequency to the access of transportation, and further, traffic commute times will logically increase over the next couple of years. Magnolia has no functional relationship with Wallingford. Magnolia has no boundary with Wallingford. Magnolia students would not even have a reasonable or remote option to walk or bike from Magnolia to Wallingford. It is unreasonable, it is inequitable, and it is an obvious oversight for the H2 proposal to even be considered. In closing, please consider approving the 18-19 Student Assignment Transition Plan only with Amendment 1. And please consider addressing the issue of HC pathways concurrently with the high school boundary proposals. Thank you for your time and attention.
Good evening, distinguished directors and Superintendent Nyland. Thank you for your service. I'm James Wager, and I'm a father of 3 SPS students, a freshman at Ballard, Avery, who you heard from a few minutes ago, and a 6th grader and 2nd grader at Kathleen Blaine. I'm here today to give you 3 things and ask you for 3 things. The 3 things I'm giving you, which you should all have copies of, are a transportation analysis showing the impact of scenario H2 on, in particular, Magnolia students. This analysis shows that if H2 is adopted, the commute between Magnolia and Lincoln would be 2.9 to 3.2 times longer than the commute on average to other SPS high schools. It also shows one of the most frequent routes is highly unsafe. The second item is the SPS response to our public records request confirming that neither the task force nor SPF staff did any transportation-related due diligence in connection with formulating their high school boundary recommendations, except for taking a cursory look at 2 maps. And lastly, the third thing is those 2 transit maps that the task force and SPS staff briefly looked at. These maps only show which neighborhoods have transit service and do nothing to establish how boundary changes would impact students commuting to and from school. The 3 things I'm here to ask you for are, first, please vote for Amendment 1 to the 18-19 Student Assignment Transition Plan. Language governing an entirely different school year is confusing and should be removed for the reasons stated by Directors Burke and Harris. Second, for the members of the Operations Committee, please do not vote to advance the 2019-20 High School Growth Boundaries Plan to the full board. For the reasons outlined in the transportation analysis I gave you, and the many other reasons my neighbors and I have shared with you, more work needs to be done before such a disruptive boundary map is imposed on SPS students. The last thing I'd ask of you is to use your oversight and stewardship to make sure SPF staff and the task force do the real work needed to justify the recommendation of the H2 boundary map. A recommendation this disruptive needs, at a minimum, a comprehensive transportation analysis, a cost-benefit analysis, and an environmental impact statement. In the alternative, I would urge you to support a less disruptive boundary map such as E, F, or G. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Kimberly Peterson, we will have Kaz Hahn, followed by Devin Bruckner and Chris Jackins.
Hi, my name is Kim Peterson. I have daughters at Roosevelt High School and Green Lake Elementary. Regarding the student assignment plan, I strongly support Amendment 1. The high school boundaries and HCC pathways need to be viewed together to fully understand the impact of the choices. 5 pathways might be the right choice, but before the decision is made, I recommend the following. 1, forecasted numbers based on cohort roll-ups, students who are in middle school today, rather than current high school or last high school numbers. There's a bubble coming, and there's a large increase in HCC. 2, maps that show the changes to attendance areas required to accommodate the pathways. Do the boundaries have to be tightened? Will students who currently walk be moved to further away schools to accommodate the pathway? You need to know the trade-offs. And 3, transportation, travel times, safe routes to school analysis for all the boundaries, including the pathways. We have not seen any of this analysis done in this boundary process. And 4, solid analysis of the impact to these schools. Would access to AP classes really be increased? Or at Roosevelt, for example, would my spectrum level student be squeezed out as HCC students are prioritized? And then regarding opening Lincoln, the goal is to successfully launch a new high school. But what we've seen recommended so far is the most disruptive boundary map possible. Why not place programs at Lincoln like language immersion or HCC that will draw students to the new school and then create a smaller, less disruptive boundary? This would cultivate buy-in. For years, Roosevelt and Ballard have been overcrowded, and Lincoln was supposed to provide relief, so it's hard to understand why we would put these HCC pathways there. So I'd like to be convinced with good data that this is a solid plan, and I don't want to be back here having the same conversation in 3 years. If you vote the pathways as part of the student assignment plan, the district moves forward tied to this model, and it might not be the right choice. This will affect thousands of students. If the decision proves to be a good one, it can still be made in January with boundaries. It can still be made before open enrollment. It does not have to be made tonight. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Kaz Hahn. I have a freshman at West Seattle High School, and I'm a member of the Racial Equity at HCC team. And I'm also a product of the Gifted program of Washington schools in the 80s. I believe that lifted my family out of poverty and allowed me to be the first in my family to graduate high school and go on to college. I want highly capable services provided in more neighborhood schools and at all grade levels. This will do 4 things. It will increase access to more students. It will grow community awareness of the services. It will improve diversity in the program, and it will improve school dynamics by having the HC students at each school be a smaller proportion of each school's population. I also want the district to identify a more diverse group of highly capable students. House Bill 2242, adopted in June, mandates that district practices for identifying highly capable students must prioritize equitable identification of low-income students. Along with the Washington Coalition for Gifted Education, we advocate for the following 4 changes to our practices. 1, test all students at least once before 3rd grade and again before entering middle school. 2, test only during the school day, not on weekends, not before or after school, but in that student's home school. 3, use district data to look for HC candidates who might not have been found through the screening. And 4, use local norms, not national norms, to identify the most highly capable students in the context of their local school communities. Please implement these practices so that we identify HCC students in a way that prioritizes equitable identification of low-income students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, directors. My name is Devin Bruckner, and I'm the parent of a student in HCC and part of the Racial Equity and HCC leadership team. I agree with everything that Kaz just shared. And I also want to share that after working on this issue with a lot of my energy for the past 2 years, I believe the Highly Capable program needs a dramatic overhaul. When I began this work, I was focused on identification, changing the process so that we can find the missing HCC students. I still believe that is important, but now I see that much more dramatic change is in order. The problems run deeper, are more complex, and have more impact on the rest of the students and the district than I first realized. I believe we need major changes to the HCC program, including where it is offered, what is offered, and how we decide who is in it. If Seattle puts its mind to it, it can accomplish this. We need to serve HC students by law. But where we've ended up is a situation where nearly 10% of our district is HC eligible, and the numbers are dramatically rising each year. These students are cloistered in a small number of schools. The racial diversity and income levels of these students don't reflect our district at all. We look around and we know we must not really be identifying giftedness. We must be identifying something else. Do we want to have 2 Seattle public school systems, one for the 10% of students in HC and the rest, another system for the other students? That doesn't feel right, but it's what it looks like and feels like right now. We need to work to create a system that feels more like one district, and for the HC program not to be like a separate program that is often an escape from local schools. While there are outlier students, the 1%, we need to figure out how to identify and serve this 10% of students in a way that's more inclusive and less divisive for our district. I believe this means, among other things, serving more HC students in neighborhood schools. Other districts like Federal Way are doing this. What we're doing isn't working. Almost no one is happy with it. We must open our minds, think big, and get creative, and tackle this problem like an advanced learner. Thank you.
After Chris Jackins, we have Kate Poe, followed by Brian Terry and Cara Golgert.
My name is Chris Jackins, Box 84063, Seattle 98124, on the student assignment plan. 3 points. Number 1, under the previous system, the district's tiebreaker did not require yearly boundary changes, and most people went to neighborhood schools. Number 2, the current plan has created an aggravated racial imbalance. This was confirmed by a court ruling. Number 3, for equity, please restore guarantees of transportation to all schools. This would allow voluntary choices to coincidentally reduce racial imbalance. On the $500,000 cost increase to the Magnolia contract, 3 points. Number 1, this project will aggravate racial imbalance. A previous board resolution should have said that the project will not create or aggravate racial imbalance, which is the language of state law. Instead, the district had to replace the words "or aggravate" with the words "but will minimize." Number two, a previous board approved $5 million cost overrun, but only by a vote of 4-2. Number three, today's vote should have been a chance to help stop this racial segregation plan. I wish all of you had voted no. It would have been nice to be able to speak to you before you voted. On Wing Luke, the district plans to tear down a $6 million, 12-year-old building. I wish you had voted no on that also. On district underspend funds from last year, 2 points. Number one, the board's decision to put these millions of dollars into a reserve account lacked a consideration of alternatives. Number two, for example, last year, health care was not offered to school bus drivers. This decision was made without the board knowing about the underspend funds. They hadn't come up yet. Thank you very much.
I'm Kate Pooks, and I cede my time to Destiny Lanayo.
Hi, School Board. Thank you for having me. I am a parent of 3 children in SPS, 2 6th graders and 1 7th graders at Mercer Middle School and formerly Maple Elementary. I would like to read what I sent you earlier this week. As a multiracial parent of 3 flourishing multiracial young adults in the Seattle School District, I have a vested interest in higher learning opportunities, but not at the expense of racial diversity. My children have qualified year after year while at Maple for AP and Spectrum tracks and have made it to final rounds of Rainier Scholars. After much conversation with our principal, teachers, and district curriculum advisors, I chose to keep my children at our neighborhood school of Maple for a variety of reasons, and they are as follows. Partnership with my school to foster increased academic challenge in their current setting, consistency, continuity, and community, and strong engagement with our neighborhood school and fostering that, student-to-student pairing that connect emerging leaders with highly capable learners to peer teach whereby all academic tides rise, ability to have a balanced combination of academic, emotional, social, and racial diversity that prepares our students for adult life realities, ability to relate to peers of many backgrounds versus assimilation pressure into homogeneous group in order to have access to higher education. Fortunately, our school our family has been successful, happy, and wise. Recently, I attended forums for admission offices for University of Washington and Seattle University in preparation for understanding college-bound readiness. It was very informative and eye-opening. This has made me evaluate our next steps on how we'd be impacted by the district decision on highly capable learners. Our feeder school is Franklin High School. My kids will and do qualify for highly capable curriculum, but it will be to their advantage to index well in these courses in order to have college acceptance. I'd like to be confident that Seattle Public Schools would equitably provide access to kids and others to true potential at Franklin High School and have a holistic AP curriculum offering. Diversity in thought is rooted in every student's background, will provide on how our world will successfully problem solve and grow. We all have the power to build this path forward equitably for all students now.
Thank you.
Good evening. In our schools, a white student is 20 times more likely than a black student to be identified as highly capable. Thanks to universal testing, we now know that this is because there is an alarming 13-to-1 racial bias in the identification process itself, affecting not only black students, but all students of color. This racial bias leads to highly segregated classrooms, promotes racial stereotypes, and hurts all students. To any student who looks into an HCC classroom, you are sending a clear message. White students are more capable and more deserving. This is institutional racism. The solution is simple. Follow state mandate and district policy and expand the program to include highly capable underprivileged students. But there is a catch. A vocal minority of families believe that increasing access to the program will negatively impact their privileged students. You must decide how much institutional racism and sacrifice underprivileged students should endure for the perceived benefit of the privileged 10%. District staff, school administrators, and more than 90% of families in our district are eager to see a dramatically more inclusive program and are looking to you for leadership. Now is the time to end this elitism and increase access to HCC. Ask the district to unbias both the service model and the identification process and offer services at more schools. Most importantly, consider the impact of your decisions on not only the elite 10%, but on all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Cara Golgert, we'll have Whitney Patterson, followed by Kim Torrons and Emily Alaski.
Hello, I'm Kara Golgert, early childhood special educator, and I'd like to cede my time to parent Lori Phipps.
Hello, directors, thank you for having me today and thank you for your time. My name is Lori Phipps. My son is a kindergartner at Sacagawea Elementary School in District 2. I'm here today with some other parents and one of the students from Sacagawea, and my son is actually listening at home right now. He's 5. We are here to urge you to approve the BTA 4 Phase 1 that is on your agenda today. Access to computers in the classroom creates a blended learning environment that has been shown to improve math skills, reading skills, as well as just prepare students for life in where basic computer skills have become a must. And my son, he actually really loves Gigi the penguin, that he gets to, watch him climb the mountain as he's learning with the SD math program. Things like that would not be available if they weren't able to have computers in their classroom. The technology that Sacagawea will receive in this phase will benefit our whole school. We are multicultural students with diverse learning needs from preschool to 5th grade. And Sacagawea has desperately needed to improve its technology equity for many years. And I think approving this BTA 4 Phase 1, it will be a step in achieving that goal. The Sacagawea PTA has always tried to support our diverse student community and school staff to create the best education experience possible. And I hope that you will join us in those efforts and approve the BTA 4 Phase 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Whitney Patterson, and I'm the mother of 2 biracial children. We live in Ballard and are zoned to Adams Elementary. Growing up in West Texas, the schools I attended were majority minority students. The gifted education and honors classes I was in consisted almost solely of white students, the children of professionals, of oil company owners. In fact, in a school of 1,600 students, there was only 1 black student in my grade in high school honors and AP classes. Nicole, the only black honors student in my grade, talked about how uncomfortable it was for her to be the sole black voice in our class discussions. And we white students weren't any smarter. We just had parents who pushed hard for us to get in, teachers who catered to our cultural norms, and systems that made it challenging or uncomfortable for students of color to see that they too belonged in these classes. In Seattle, a white student is 20 times more likely than a black student to be identified as HC. Our nation's schools are more segregated than they've been since the 1970s. Honestly, I expect more of Seattle than I did of Texas. It's a city that is proud of its progressive views on social issues. It's so easy to hold an ideal like desegregation in high regard, but actually further systemic inequalities with our de facto approach to desegregation. We have a huge opportunity to do the right thing. Ensuring HC programs are accessible is a critical component. Creating more pathway schools is part of the solution. Thanks for your commitment to doing the right thing for all of our students.
Good evening, school board members. I'm Kim Torrons, a parent of 3 children in the Seattle Public School District, And I seized my time this evening to my daughter Isabella Taronis, a student at Ballard High School.
Good evening. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Cameron. We are freshmen at Ballard High School, and we oppose Scenario H2. Although we've only gone to Ballard High School for a few months, we feel that it's already our second home, and we want it to be that way for the next 4 years.
We are both student athletes and are taking all of the freshman honors classes. We are a part of the clubs and like meeting new people through them.
We love the spirit-filled events like cheering on schoolmates at football games and going to pep rallies.
We've both also talked with our siblings and they're super excited about coming to Ballard in the next coming years. But what if they're forced to go to Lincoln?
If students in Magnolia have to go to Lincoln, they will miss out on all the great opportunities that Ballard presents.
All of their new friends, sports teammates, and most importantly, the culture at Ballard just isn't at Lincoln.
So please, don't have us bus over an hour every day, back and forth, especially when the transfer spots are kind of dangerous.
People would have to get up way early than they should get to go on a bus to then have to transfer. The transfer station isn't a safe part of Seattle either, which would put future students in danger. Do you really want a bunch of sleep-deprived, non-excited high schoolers at Lincoln?
Ballard High School is our second home. Please let it be our siblings as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After Emily, we will have Cyrus Bunyareth Hall, followed by Jarek Sean Rugardos and Marianne Virginia Jarnigan.
Hi, I'm Emily Lasky. I'm a National Board Certified Teacher in EEA Science, CTE certified, and this is my 10th year teaching 8th grade science at Mercer Middle School. I'm here to support the BTA 4 to get more technology into classrooms. I think it's very important to have equitable access for our students to be prepared for 21st century skills and careers. I'm going to cede the rest of my time to my student and future scientist, Sam Merwitt.
Hi, I'm Sam Merwitt, and I think Mercer should get new technology because my understanding mainly comes from making models and doing lots of tests and simulations. Technology has taught me a lot, like how methane and carbon dioxide come in and out of the atmosphere and what happens when two objects collide. Technology has played the role of supporting me and helping me to answer these difficult questions. Mercer has been very dependable on technology to teach us new things, so am I. It's very important for Mercer to get new technology because I want to learn new things, and so do other students. So please give us new technology.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, school board. I am Cyrus Hall, an 8th grader at Mercer Middle School. I'm here to talk about us getting new laptops. We use laptops for basically everything. Sims, articles, and modeling tools. We also take tests on these laptops. We need new laptops because the Chromebooks we are currently provided with often have problems, and we have to conform to these problems and try to solve them. But it tends to often mean we aren't learning. We are more focused on solving the problems than actually learning. It would be a big help to me and other students for you guys to give us new laptops. I've learned about force and motion, and without these laptops, I want to learn about that. So I would like to have new laptops. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jarek Rugardos. Today, I will be talking about the laptops we currently have are negatively impacting our academics. As you know, technology is a big part of our academic future. If we had newer laptops, we would be able to finish our work on time instead of wasting time looking at the loading screen. We end up wasting our class time fixing a problem and overall delaying our classwork. Delayed classwork then leads to pushing back new units that we may not even learn. Also, test taking is a big part as one of my main reasons causing my grade to drop. We use laptops for designing, classwork, iterative testing, engineering, and taking tests. We continuously end up having to restart over and over, and the overall loading speed is too slow. Therefore, we need new laptops for better use of class time and able to do work with no issues. Thank you.
Good evening, School Board. I'm Marianne Jarnigan, and I'm my 4th year teaching at Austin Mercer Middle School as a science teacher. I have been a part of the PSEP transition between the old Washington State standards and the new NGSS standards. In our PSEP, we have been focused on authentic 21st century learning, three-dimensional learning, and also ELL discourse, as ELL populations is probably one of our more at risk. I've had an interesting lens, as Mercer Middle School is at 68.9% free and reduced lunch, 11% special education, and 17.8% ELL. Through the use of Amplify, our online curriculum, which uses the laptops the students before me referred to, I have been able to give my students authentic science learning that is more modern through the use of simulators and organization of data on computers. Additionally, I have the ability to further differentiate my instruction through text-to-speech, also multiple languages for vocabulary, at-home access in other classrooms as necessary. I have submitted to you letters from my students imploring you to vote yes on BTA 4. And in this, I would also like to reference our policy number 30, ensuring educational and racial equality. Point A, for how that we will provide our students with the best skills possible for future education. A, equitable access. The district shall provide every student with equitable access to high-quality curriculum, support, facilities, and other educational resources, even when this means differentiating resource allocation. My students and I implore you to vote yes on BTA 4. Thank you.
Next up for public testimony, we have Jennifer Chu, followed by Dejanay Austin and Rose Wallace-Kuhn.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Sue, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Highly Capable Services Advisory Committee regarding the district's proposal for future HC high school pathways. First, I'd like to thank the district staff for their tireless work towards satisfying the needs of such a great and diverse school district. However, we have concerns regarding the staff's recommendation for 5 pathways and believe that adding sites at West Seattle and Franklin are premature for 2019. The 5 pathway proposal has afforded little time for public review and assessment. We expressed concerns in a communication to the superintendent and board on November 15th, which we resent today. Moreover, we do not believe that 5 pathways at this juncture offers the best alignment to District Policy 2190, which calls for pathways to sites with adequate cohorts of highly capable students in order to provide peer learning in addition to social and emotional opportunities for students, trained and experienced teachers with experience on the needs of these students, appropriate curriculum, and a continuum of services to be provided to identified students through grade 12. I would like to reiterate our concerns and urge the district to reconsider the 5 pathway proposal. We do agree that additional pathways in the north are needed sooner rather than later. Ballard and Roosevelt would certainly meet the needs of many of these students as they serve a large number of these students today. However, from a proximity perspective, it doesn't make sense to assign Lincoln HC students to Garfield when Ingram, Ballard, or Roosevelt could afford a shorter commute to the north of the Ship Canal. We do support the building of the foundation in the south for an equitable future pathway expansion at West Seattle and Franklin. But to open these schools in 2019 as the official pathway for HC students would be highly premature. Therefore, we recommend that Garfield remain the only pathway school for the Central, Southeast, and Southwest in 2019 and suggest that the district first build up the AP course offerings at these schools and also ensure an adequate cohort size exists prior to making this change. Finally, we encourage the district to grandfather all current high school students and 8th graders in their current pathway. Thank you for your careful consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dejanay Austin, and I'm ceding my time to Heidi Ha.
Hi, my name's Ivy, and I'm a Rainier Beach cheerleader. On behalf of me and my 12 cheer sisters, I stand before you to say that our principal has robbed us of our opportunity.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. The board rules suggest that we cannot have comments regarding personnel issues. So we need to be exceptionally careful here so you don't get ruled out of order. And believe me, I don't like being in this position. I like free speech, but there are ways to go about this that the district has procedures for. This is one of them.
I've been a cheerleader for 2 years, and Coach Tay has always been by my side. When I found out she was fired, it really hurt me. I felt betrayed. Sorry. It's just.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please, Director Geary.
I would like to hear from you what your cheerleading program is and what good things it has done for you. Can you tell me that, please? Just tell me what it means to you. As what does it look like? What do you do when you go? And how it has changed your life. Answer those questions for me. And could we maybe start over? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
When I joined cheer, it's really helped me come out of my shell, and I know I can speak on behalf of my cheer sisters that it has helped us a lot. We volunteer, we help out, we give out to the community our time, and recently she was fired. Again, we've got to be really careful here. I apologize for interrupting you, but please let's stay on the other line.
How has it changed you from the beginning to now? You got it. Okay.
Okay, talk about how at the beginning cheer kind of like to understand how you are as a person.
Well, before I joined cheer, I didn't really have that many friends, and cheer has always been my place to go to, where I felt like I had friends and people that supported me. And it's and Coach Tay has always had my back, and she's my cheer mother, and it's been really stressful without her.
Thank you very much.
We haven't been the same without our cheer mother, and without her, we're just no longer a team, and we really need her back. I'm sorry.
Rose?
Yes, good evening. Good evening. My name is Rose Wallace Kroon. I'm a parent, Seattle Public Schools. I'm also a product of Seattle Public Schools, a graduate of Garfield High School. Currently, I have a son that graduated from Rainier Beach High School and now attends a Division I university. I'd like to say that on behalf of Rainier Beach, my son also was a product of the advanced placement system. Didn't work. We went to our neighborhood, Rainier Beach High School, where Principal Chappelle was there and worked with my son and the rest of those students of color and did a phenomenal job. I like to say that Rainier Beach is a family, and when you break up that family, it causes a rift. And the current administration has, I'm not going there, but I'm saying under the current administration, we have several issues. I am asking the school board to look into Rainier Beach's current administration.
Our cheerleaders are a family. We work together, many volunteers, parents are coming together. We don't get paid to ensure that our children do well. Look at the statistics. Rainier Beach High School has the largest number of students that graduate and attend Division I universities, and we are a school of color. I'm asking you, don't break up the family. Take a peek at what's going on at our school. Don't leave us out there alone. We need your help. I have emailed Ms. Patua already, and I'm still waiting to hear back from his supervisor as well. We need your help. We need your help. Look at what's going on in our building. You see our girls. I don't want to talk about the unfair treatment of our ladies, our young ladies, and the message that it's sending to this generation. Please, 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 please take a look at what's going on at Rainier Beach High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next two public testimony speakers we have will be Sabrina Burr, followed by Jessica Cran.
Come back. Yes, Ms. Bird.
Good evening and congratulations, Dr. Harris, Dr. Burke, and Dr. Gary. I am here because we talk about family and community engagement at the core of one of our strategies. We talk about people who do the hard work for our students. Coach Tay is a woman of integrity that has shown integrity. It's not a personnel issue. It's a human issue of who she is as a person, her integrity as a person in our community that has been forever and will be in this issue, outside of this issue, as she stands as a beautiful Black woman of color and a leader for arts. This is not a personnel issue. Respectfully, this is a life issue of who she is as a woman. I am here because I was called to a community meeting, and I am here to witness and to testify what I heard from our families and mostly from our students, that we can do better by the policies that you uphold around engaging families and making sure that our students are safe in our schools. When I heard at that meeting from these young girls that they are targeted on Fridays when they wear their uniform, it made me cry. When I witnessed mothers and daughters working together in sisterhood and somebody giving them the strategy to work out the girl stuff and telling them, go talk to your parent, we need that. We need to embrace that. We need to duplicate that. So I'm here to testify for that, and for the single mothers who felt implicit bias and for who they are as single mothers. And the last thing I want to say, for the married mother who was there with her husband, who tried to be invisible. That's not who we are. We can do better, and let's do better practices around how we engage families, how we engage communities, but most important, how we uplift and support our beautiful, amazing, beautiful students. And that's what I came here to say.
Thank you.
Jessica? Jessica Cran?
Oh, I apologize. That is my daughter. I took her time and read part of her statement. I apologize.
Okay. Lucretia Kraler?
Is it okay if I give my time to another student?
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. I am Lucretia Claytor, here to speak about the climate at Rainier Beach High School and the cheerleader. The term school climate refers to the quality and character of a school life. School climate is based on the patterns of students, the school climate is based on patterns of students, parents, and schools' personnel experience of school life and reflects norms, goals, values, interpersonal relationships, teaching and learning practices and organizational structures. I wonder if the administration at RBH High School took the time to develop an interpersonal relationship with the cheerleader. Allow me to describe what the definition of interpersonal means. This is specifically for those who have seemed to have forgotten it. It relates to the relationship or communication between people. I repeat, it relates to the relationship or communication between people. I wonder if the Rainier Beach administration cared enough to establish an interpersonal relationship with the cheerleaders, their parents, and the cheerleader, Coach Tay, collectively. For the record, Rainier Beach High School went from having 2 of 4, yes, 4 cheerleaders eligible to cheer prior to the cheerleader. Upon Coach Tay's hiring, surprised, she is far from a volunteer. She is an unpaid staff member of Seattle Public Schools with an employee number. She is unpaid because she was told by the RBHS administration that there were no funding for her. I challenge the board to check into that. The cheer squad has grown not just in number, now at 16, but also in character. The cheerleader instills confidence, a sense of belonging, responsibility, and the value these young ladies, of which is the utmost importance to their parents and families. Take a look around. All of these people are here holding up signs, snapping their fingers on a crisp Wednesday evening. They are here just like Ingram High School parents and community were here when they wanted to save their beloved principal. We will continue to speak with the Seattle Public Schools Board. Just like Ingram, we will engage with the community, parents and cheerleaders, parents of cheerleaders, cheerleaders and the media to save our beloved Coach Tay. Until we meet again.
This concludes the sign-up list for public testimony this evening. Thank you.
Given the number of guests that we have that perhaps want to hear from our board directors, could we do board director comments while testimony is still fresh in our mind, and then take a 15-minute break after those comments? Who would like to go first this evening? Director Patu.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Seattle Housing Authority for their partnership with the Seattle Public Schools and all the wonderful things that they provide on behalf of partnership to really move forward in our education for our students. And secondly, I wanted to say to Rainier Beach High School, this is actually not had the chance to really look at the problem. I've been told bits and pieces, but I was planning to actually contact Tay and actually bring her in so we can actually meet at Rainier Beach High School. There is, to hear both sides. And, I'm a, I'm a long-time Rainier Beach person, and I want to make sure that everyone get the opportunity to be able to bring in what they're, what is the problem and how can we come together, because we are a family. That's right. Rainier Beach has always been a family. That's right. And we don't want anything to interfere with what is it that we need to do to bring things back together again. Right. So hopefully we'll get a meeting together, and for all of you here tonight, thank you for coming in and letting us know what's in your mind. And we're hoping that as we plan this meeting, that we can all come together and be able to bring in comments and what can we do to bridge this, I don't know what you call it, but it's not what Rainier Beach needs. That's right. So hopefully we can do that in, hopefully in a week, depending on what's availability for everybody. But I want to say is that, for the students and for all the adults who are here tonight, thank you so much for coming and letting us know exactly what's going on. And, we will work together. It's our community, it's our school, and that's how we do things. I also wanted to to say thank you also for the parents who come tonight and talk about HCC. I believe that HCC is for every student, that no student should not be allowed to be part of HCC, that all students have ability to be able to advance in all kinds of learning. And this is something that I believed in. I know I've always said that, the district has not done its job in terms of integrating HCC to all kids, because it has not come to a lot of our schools in the South End. Now, it's beginning to come in, but I talked to some of my schools and they said, no, we don't want HCC. We know how to move our kids forward. They want to be able to do that and be able to provide opportunities for all students, because we look at our students, they're all smart. And it's our opportunity as schools to be able to bring that out and do what we can to make sure that all our kids have the opportunity to be advanced in learnings, and whatever it is that our kids come with them, we need to make sure that they have that opportunity to be advanced, not only in their thinking, but also in different directions, so they can be able to be with the rest of the students in Seattle Public Schools. So we're hoping that we can actually be able to look at that, and because not all schools want HCC in their schools. Because I know Franklin doesn't want it. They feel like they're doing a good job of moving their students forward. But I think that it's an opportunity for every school to have highly capable in their schools, so all students have the opportunity to move forward. I also want to thank everyone else who actually came tonight to be able to let us know your thoughts and what is it that we need to do better. As a board director, it's hard to please everyone, but we're here hopefully to listen and to hear what is it that you have to say, and we're hoping that we'll do the best that we can to be able to improvise or provide opportunities, because all our students at Rainier Beach or also at other schools in the Seattle Public Schools, they're all important. We're here because of our kids. And for me, I know that, if I'm not here for the kids, then I have no business being up here on this, sitting up here. And that's the reason why I'm here, and I want to make sure that, that I'm hearing what you're saying, and that, and that we are able to try to find a solution, or what is it that we can do to come together to help you to be able to resolve some of these problems that are ongoing. And because sometimes I think that, when you bring problems that, sometimes I think that that we as board directors do not hear you, but we hear you loud and clear. And we're trying to figure out what is the best route that or way that we can actually be able to come together and be able to find a mutual way of pleasing everyone, because we can't please one group and forget about the other group, because all our kids are important. And so it's important for all of us up here to make sure that we come up with a viable solution so we can be able to provide the best opportunity that we can for all our students, because all our students in Seattle Public Schools are important to us. That's the whole reason why I'm up here, because of the students. If I'm not up here because of the student, in reality, I want to retire. I really want to be home instead of being here tonight. But because it's important, I'm sitting up here trying to figure out what is it that I can do to be able to find an opportunity for all our kids. So every one of our students that are in Seattle Public School have the best education that we can provide. Lord knows Rainier Beach has been on, that's a school that actually is my heart, because it's never had an opportunity. Every time we came to Rainier Beach was always the last school to receive anything. And I know that because I worked there for 30 years. And that is the reason why I'm on the board, because I want opportunities for all our kids. Not just some of our kids, but every one of our students in Seattle Public School deserve to have the best education in every way that we can. So for Rainier Beach students, go Rainier Beach, and hopefully that we can be able to find a way to resolve this problem so we can work together instead of working in division. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Burke.
I also want to extend my thanks to everyone who joined us today, who's taking the time out of their Wednesday evening to share your hopes and dreams and passions and help us make this district a better place. It's already pretty awesome, as many of us know, but there's all sorts of places where we can make it more awesome. So your feedback is imperative there. A shout out to Ms. Tina Dang for joining us from Cleveland, and also her colleague who gave public testimony. When my daughter was in high school, she was on the journalism, served as editor briefly, so I had a little bit of insight into how much work that is. And as I watched her give her testimony, I could see her smile, little parts of her smile, whenever there were aspects of particular pride. And so that's when we talk about learning and we talk about engaging students, that was just a classic example of how much she loved the work and was really proud of the outcome. So I just wanted to thank her for sharing that. The team from Seattle Housing Authority, that is a critical partnership that before I served on the board, I knew nothing about. But now, when I go out and talk to people and I say, did you know that the Seattle Housing Authority serves 10% of our students, and that we actually have 10% of our students that are in this homeless categorization, and people don't realize it. They don't realize the magnitude of that in this amazing and affluent city. So it's great the work that they've been able to do to help us both bring awareness to the challenges, but also to bring solutions that are really helping the kids. I want to put a welcome to our new board colleagues, Director Zachary DeWolf and Director Eden Mack. Thank you for committing the next 4 years of your lives. This is it's an amazing journey, as you've experienced on this first meeting already, and we're super excited to have you. Apologies to my colleagues. At last meeting I was not here, but I just wanted to give a brief synopsis. I was actually in Kobe, Japan, at the International Conference for Environmental Ergonomics, which is a wonky work thing, but it's basically people that are measuring humans to know how they heat, how they sweat, how they cool, how the blood flow works. So if anybody's wondering how much heat you generate when you get really cold and you start shivering, I'm learning that now. So this is as part of being a learning organization, I also try to do that at work. Fascinating work, but not really relevant to this. Sorry, tangent. The previous week, though, I did have the pleasure of joining the Seattle Public Schools and City of Seattle delegation to visit the GCEN, I believe, GCEN meeting in Denver. This is a consortium that does a lot of different things. The Global Cities Education Network, that's what it is. Schools, districts, and from regions all around the world come together to talk about promising educational strategies, and the theme at the Denver meeting was around career-aligned learning. And it was in Denver because Denver has built out a fairly robust framework that is, again, nothing is perfect in education, but they've figured out how to do a lot of things within their state laws, within their funding structure, and engaging with a lot of external partners to provide really solid academic and experience that gives students exposure to careers in the middle school and high school grades. And by the time they get into the later grades of high school, they have a lot more opportunities for work-based learning where they can earn credit for actually volunteer or actually working in actual work environments. And it helps them try out all these experiences before they're committing to them. And it leads to a lot of credit-bearing opportunities. So it was really a neat experience, and I think it helped open my eyes to some of the things that we could be building out here in Seattle as well. A couple specific things. I want to really, again, thank the Rainier Beach speakers for coming out. Your energy is just inspiring, whether it's around facilities, whether it's around programming, whether it's around the family relationships. I think that you bring a level of energy and collaboration that reminds us what we're here for, as Director Patu had mentioned. So thank you for your consistency and just the passion that you bring to it. And I hope that I can also serve those needs well. And I'm learning from Director Patu on how to best work as a board to build towards some of these goals that the Rainier Beach community has been repeatedly asking for. I want to put a message out to some of the Magnolia community that has, and other folks who have had concerns about boundary map H2. And First of all, I hear you. I understand the transportation thing. The flip side of that, I just want to tell you, I am absolutely committed to making Lincoln an awesome place as well. That is something that between myself, my colleagues, and the great team that we have here, there have been a lot of conversations about how to do that, how to make sure that it isn't a school without an identity, that it isn't a school that doesn't have robust programming. So while I don't want to say, oh my gosh, you're going there, I do want to just recognize that there's a lot of people working really hard to make it an amazing destination. And that said, we'll continue to work on optimizing boundaries and assignment so that we have the best balance of student enrollment in the schools, but also safe routes to school and optimized transportation. In closing, I have a director meeting this Saturday at Fremont Library, 1 p.m. So that's the next meeting I have scheduled, and I'll get another meeting scheduled in the next week or so. Thank you very much.
Next up, Director Pinkham, and then Director Mack.
Thank you, actually, Creator. And I want to first start out with Rainier Beach High School and let them know that, yes, there's this really big issue about, and I shared this before, when we get education and the direction that we're trying to go to try to create a community, but we need to focus again on our community creating the education. And I think that's what you're trying to share today, that we have a good community going at Rainier Beach High School. Let's keep it going because it's educating our students. They're getting through high school and graduating and going on great, the Division I schools. So if there's something there that the community is contributing, let's do our best to support that community so that they can keep on continue seeing their kids graduate, seeing them be successful. So thank you for coming here and sharing it. And yes, I think we need to actually, unfortunately, it's kind of almost had a bad thing to say that, yes, Rainier Beach is coming here every time and saying things. We need to start moving. We need to see what we can do for Rainier Beach. Betty, let's make that one of our priorities this year, that we get Rainier Beach moving forward.
Yes. Thank you.
I also want to give a shout out to Meadowbrook Teen Center out at Nathan Hale, who just recently did a room dedication for someone that worked there, Glenn Hubbard, who provided a lot of guidance. Again, kind of example of our community coming together and helping our students to succeed. And as I said, he passed away last November, and they actually dedicated a room to him. And with the last name of Hubbard, now they have a room called The Hub out at Meadowbrook Teen Center. So congratulations to the community out there at Meadowbrook Teen Center for doing that. I too want to welcome Zachary and Eden to the board. Hopefully this first board meeting is going well, and that the retreat on December didn't put any false apprehensions about what this would be like. And also congratulate Betty Patu for her 3rd term on the school board. Betty, you're the one we're going to have to follow here, so keep us all in line. And also give my best to Sue and Stefan, wherever they are. If they're watching now, hi. And you're probably saying, hey, I'm glad we're not behind the desk this time. But best of luck to you, and thank you for your leadership while you're here. Thank you to the Seattle Housing Authority for the support that they provide for our students. And 10% of our students are homeless. And I know Zachary DeWolf, you're bringing that perspective of the work that you do with the homeless, and welcome your input. Also want to mention that myself personally, I was interviewed by Deborah Horn from Cairo in response to their hearing their issues about the revitalization of Indian Heritage High School. And I was asked to do an interview, and that will hopefully be aired sometime over the holidays. I definitely shared my perspectives, and I think from me, I get back, that's the community. Our Native community is asking for something where they feel like, hey, I'm represented. But it's not just for the Native community, but all people here that, hey, let's learn about the Indigenous people that are here first. Let's learn from their perspectives and how that can maybe lift not just the Native community up, but everybody up. And so we can see we can all be successful. The HCC programs, this is not just a program for the privileged white population, although that's what we're seeing who's being tested in it. We need to then see what's wrong with the tests. We're overlooking a lot of our talented students of color. And I feel like something like the Indian Heritage High School, lifting up Rainier Beach with their community, that, hey, we will see these highly capable students start showing up from these different backgrounds. Also want to give a shout out to the Urban Native Education Alliance. I just got an announcement that they have a new scholarship that they'll be offering for students to apply to attend college. It's actually named after Sarah Sense Wilson's mother, Roberta Wilson, who was actually my counselor when I was at the University of Washington, and she passed away a number of years back, but now they have a scholarship in her honor. They'll also be hosting a holiday winter event this Tuesday, December 12th, at Robert Eaglestaff Middle School from 6 to 8:30. They're inviting all the community to come out and enjoy, because they'll be premiering a spoken word presentation that was put together by the youth involved with UNEA with the help of Roger Fernandez's, actually probably should do it the other way, Anthony Fernandez, who happens to be the son of Roger Fernandez, came out and helped our students to express themselves. Again, let them share their voice, and I think it's going to be a very impactful thing to see what the students had to say. Also want to thank Superintendent Nyland for coming out to visit me at the University of Washington a while back. Now, it wasn't last week. It wasn't that long ago, but I was able to take him on a tour of the West Schlabalt, which is the University of Washington's longhouse style building. And West Schlabalt is Lachute Seed, roughly translated means the house of intellect, or the intellectual house. Also want to thank Tina Dang for coming out here from Cleveland High School, sharing her thoughts and perspectives and the power of journalism, that students can share their voice. And look, I do not have a community meeting yet planned, but keep an eye out on the district website, and I'll post it once I get one going. Katsiayo, thank you.
Director Mack?
Hi. I am so appreciative of all of the folks that came out, and there's a lot of people who have left already, but big believer in continuing the conversation and hearing from folks. If we don't hear from you, we don't know what's going on. So I encourage emails, encourage testimony. I'm really excited about that. I just started a couple days ago, turned on the email, 200 emails dropped in. It's a lot, and I'm super excited about it. I'm reading. I'm actually, incorporating all of this comment, but I haven't figured out a way to respond to everyone yet. So I just want to let folks know I have gotten your email. I have read it. I'm engaged. I'm hearing what's being said, and I really appreciate getting it. And I'll figure out how to be able to respond to 6 million emails that come in. I'm also really, really excited about the opportunity today to vote on the student assignment transition plan. It's actually an issue that I've been engaged in for a good few years, and so having it be my first real vote, well, other than the elections, but I'm excited about that. And I am looking forward to setting up community meetings. I don't have it set up. I'll look at doing that in January after the holidays. And I want to give a thank you. I appreciate the other thank yous that were given. I echo them. I don't want to repeat that. But at our retreat on Sunday, we had the opportunity to hear from Cantonese-speaking mothers about their experience at their schools. And I really appreciated the opportunity to get the personal stories and hear, their perspective on where the gaps exist and what we can do to help support those gaps. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work on those issues, and just appreciative of the folks that brought that together and being able to hear those voices. So thank you. Whew, this is real. I'm here.
Director DeWolf.
I don't want to take too much of our time, but just I think it's important to make sure we're just sharing gratitude. So thank you so much for spending your Wednesday with us. We have to be here, so we're here, but thank you for spending your Wednesday with us. And particularly thank you to the student commenters. It is really helpful to make sure that we're hearing from the students. I don't have much more to say. We'll have more to say later, but y'all are doing really, really great work to come here and make sure that we're hearing from you. So thank you so much for that.
Director Geary.
I feel like I've already taken up a lot of time, so But always want to give out our thanks to our students. Of course, our students from Cleveland, Tina Dang and Jay Kent. Their passion around the journalism program, their willingness to come and stand up on behalf of their school. I think that's great. I think it's great for all of us to see the great things that are happening in our high schools, because there's so many really exciting things. I'll jump right in on the high school issue. When I ran for school board, I ran around a platform that we have to be really careful about labels, excluding, and pushing to include. And we've had a lot of testimony about a group of kids called HC kids. And that, it makes me so nervous. It makes me so nervous that we have invested so much of our energy and identity around education in these labels. And if your kid gets the label, what's the kid who doesn't get the label? What do they think about themselves? What do they think? Where do they think they belong? And we're all responsible for that because we all use that language, and that language is really powerful and really detrimental to both sides of the equation. The pressure it puts on the kids with the label to be something, to do something. Are they the bottom of their class? Are they really HC? The kids who don't get the label, who still may be bored, who still may be fighting, the parents who have to fight but even after their kid didn't get the label because they know their kid's bored and needs more, but couldn't get the label. So let's all be really, really mindful of that as you're looking at our district and what you're asking us to do or not do. Because it's my goal to make sure that every single school can deliver a great education to a kid. And that education includes an education that will get their child into any pathway for a future that they want. Be it a four-year college, be it a community college, be it an apprenticeship program. I want every kid to be inspired to have a pathway, a goal for themselves, a goal for their future. And I don't want us to shut down in their mind any pathway because they didn't get a label. And it's my job to make sure that wherever they're going to school, that we are fostering the best out of them. And that means for our really, really smart kids, fostering their ability to work with others, recognize the value of others, their social emotional learning, their self-regulation. That's true of every single kid in our district. So we'll have some discussion later on about how that's going to go down. But it is my goal, and you will also hear it is one of our goals, that we serve all of our high schoolers in their assignment area. But we have to be careful about that, because I've also lived on the side of Seattle public school planning where best intentions of moving forward without preparing the landscape, without being sensitive to the cultures of the schools, ends up creating greater problems than we anticipated. But they were foreseeable, and we need to take the time to plan. I don't know as we're all unanimous in how that's going to happen, but I think we're all very, very mindful of it. But when you talk to me, be careful about your weddedness to a label around children, around students. Hold on, my screensaver went off, and I was going to be short. So I will try to abbreviate now. Rainier Beach, Hani Ahmed, other people talk about anything. I heard you loud and clear about the MOU. That was my comment to everybody, that even if we can't get the MOU to include the city's understanding around the equitable distribution of resources as we go forward and create all this energy right in the center of our city, that we need to have an understanding in our minds here at Seattle Public Schools that anything we're doing in the center, we have to be mindful of the edges. And that is not just Rainier Beach. That is the very top of our city. Because both of those areas have people who need extra supports, extra mindfulness. Their cultures need to be celebrated. They need to be included in these conversations. They need the resources too. I'd love to see the South needs to spend time reaching out to figure out ways to support the North. This is a city where the political power around poverty and color resides in the South, but there are lots and lots of people in the North who need the support, who need the welcome. They are isolated, I am sure, up there. And that's the one thing I heard this weekend about the Cantonese families, the profound feelings of isolation that our families, especially our families who do not speak English as a first language, feel in our schools. And the one that got me was that when people are laughing at PTA meetings, that seems welcoming, that seems friendly. But if you don't understand the joke and nobody's taking the time to explain it to you, and your child's asking you, Mama, what are they laughing about? And you can't turn to your child and explain what's happening, that's a super uncomfortable situation. So everybody, remember, be mindful. Be mindful to look around the room and see who's not laughing and think about maybe why not. It may feel good to you. Make sure it's feeling good to everybody. So, honey, I will continue to make sure that my memorandum of understanding includes that Rainier Beach gets resources as we move forward in creating anything in the center of our city. And a final shout out to the Unified Robotics Program. They had their competition in November. For those of you who don't know, Unified is our program that has a team member or an athlete with a disability who is partnered with a person who does not have a disability. They create a team and they compete. In this instance, it was robotics. The Special Olympics will be here this summer. Here, and it's going to happen predominantly at the UW. And so it's a really great opportunity for us and all of our high schools and whoever in Seattle Public Schools who wants to show up and compete. And so to that end, I want us to show up for Unified. We need to help our coaches, just like we have cheerleading coaches who don't get paid, who are expected to show up. Sometimes it helps to have a little something. I'm going to make a donation to help with the stipend for those coaches so that we can incent people to want to come and work in our high schools to develop these teams and support them so that we can show up at the U this summer proud and strong. That is our job. It is here. We are the hosts. We need to show up. I will start by making a donation. I will find a website or a link for you all to make a donation so that we can show up proud and strong at the Special Olympics this summer. Okay, I was continuing to have my coffees on Tuesday morning at Zoka on Blakely behind the U Village. Anybody who wants to show up, just have coffee with me. Look on Facebook beforehand because mornings, kids can sometimes disrail you. But if you look at my webpage, I always say if I'm going to be there, it's usually 8 to 9:30, and I will find a place to have a community meeting this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Geary. I will save my comments because our old-fashioned video system needs to change the tape. We are going to take a 15-minute break until 7:30, and I promise I'll make my comments short and sweet. Thank you ever so much for being here. You can watch the rest of the meeting, Channel 26, go to the board webpage. It'll be uploaded to YouTube by tomorrow. Thank you very, very much for attending.